But I would say the coolest thing about it is um, we had a lot of, we had zero glitches. Let's just start there, right? We had zero glitches with the technology. No, technology's been tricky trying to figure out how to, work all these streams on the different platforms. So that was awesome. We celebrated Earth, Mother Earth. That was awesome. And then we had some epic guests that stopped by. We had our stylists, different stylists from different salons on our team stop by, share some of their favorite, products, and share some of the reasons why they love those products. So I want to give them a big thank you. We had Vanessa, we had Corey, we had Haley stop by and share some of their heart about Tea Tree. And it was all about the Tea Tree brand. We went into pretty much every one of the Tea Tree products. We had some demos. We had some socially distanced approved demonstrations going on people and mannequins. My co-host Josh out there in Austin and Texas was awesome. Did a great job. So that was a lot of fun. And then we had some epic guests that stopped by. If you missed the party, if you missed Saturday night's party, Earth Night Celebration of Earth, then you can definitely check out the replay. The replay lives on, let's see, it lives on, I'm pretty sure every platform that we have. It's going to be living on our Facebook page. It's going to be living on our Facebook pages. It's going to be living on our Instagram pages. So we have it out there. It's out there if you guys want to check it out, see what was going on. But I'll tell you right now, we had some epic guests. We had our global artistic director for Paul Mitchell stop by. Robert Cromines was on with us. He hung out, for a little bit and shared some insights, shared some ideas, and shared some just inspiration as we're getting going within the beauty industry, getting ready to relaunch into our salon world, back to our life, back to reality, the new reality in the Corona economy, of course that is. But we had Robert stop by, and then we also had Kelly Cardenas, founder, owner of Kelly Cardenas Salon, multi-location salon owner, Paul Mitchell educator, longtime friend of mine, inspiration to many, author, podcaster. He's doing amazing things, and he stopped by and he shared, just some inspiration, some insight, some awesome stories with, our group that was on. So that was awesome. And then, so we had Robert Cromans, we had Kelly Cardenas, and then we had Gary Spellman, who is our ambassador for culture at Paul Mitchell. So he's a big heart. He's a big heart for the company. He's a big heart for the industry. He's been a friend of mine for years when I was just getting started in the hair business, in the hair game. One of the first people that I met. He's one of JP's best friends, and he has the Peace, Love, and Happiness organization, which do tremendous good for the industry, for our first responders. They do a ride in Austin every year. If you're a motorcycle enthusiast, you can check that out. I'm determined to ride with them for one of these. It happens in every April. So check him out on Instagram as well. Peace, Love, and Happiness, PLH charity. So you'll see him on there, and check out Kelly. He's at the Real Kelly Cardenas, and check out Robert. He is at Robert Cromines. So they all stopped by our party on Saturday night, hung out, and just shared their heart, shared some inspiration, hung out and talked to all of our guests that were online with us, celebrating Earth Night. It was all about Tea Tree. So we had a ton of fun. We're already planning the next one. We're thinking about doing the next one this Friday night. So we did our first launch party we did on a Sunday night. Last week's party we did on a Saturday night. We're thinking about this week doing our party on Friday night. And then we'll have some other, specially and invited guests probably, never know who's going to show up at a pmtakehome.com party. You never, ever No. So we'll be definitely posting about that. You look out for that, like probably like Wednesday, Thursday. You'll see some flyers going out. You'll see some promos. Josh and I have been doing like these promos. We'll do a promo like the day of. We'll do kind of like, you know, radio spots when you have a band or you have a, you know, a comedian that comes to town. That's what they do. They do these radio spots, and they'll go around to the local stations, in our case, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, everywhere we can go, Zoom, and we'll pop up and we'll do a promo spot, talk a little bit about the party. But at the last promo spot that we did, we had, you know, like the idea was just kind of brewing up about special guests, and we were talking about it, but we hadn't confirmed anything. So it was really awesome that we were able to confirm, and everybody that was able to stop by, super generous with their time, to be able to come out on Saturday night and share with everybody. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And, you know, not having to worry about the technical issues, we ironed that out. We were able to keep our streams going continuously. And then we were interacting with our guests in Instagram world, on the Facebook pages. So it was definitely a lot of fun. We're looking forward to the next one. We had some crazy deals going on. And our goal really with Tea Tree at Paul Mitchell, we're working on planting 1 million trees by the end of 2022. And so every time people, you know, go on pmtakehome.com or go in the hair salons and you're purchasing our Tea Tree brand of products, any of our products, a portion of those proceeds go towards planting trees in places that are hugely impacted by deforestation. And you know, the offset of the carbon emissions and reducing our carbon footprint is what it's all about. You know, keeping our air quality, keeping our earth green. So that's what it's all about. So that was, you know, our theme for our party on Saturday night. It was Earth Night, and it was just right on the heels of, or I guess just after, you know, Earth Day just passed on that Wednesday. So we wanted to keep it rolling. And so most people in the world know about Tea Tree. It's our top selling brand, has been for many years at Paul Mitchell, which is awesome in itself. And we just had a lot of fun celebrating and doing some demonstrations with the product. That was a lot of fun to be able to show, you know, what we could do with product. And especially right now, you know, dealing with our coronavirus, and we're in this corona economy right now, knowing that, you know, Tea Tree is a healer. Tea Tree is antibacterial. Tea Tree is been healing hair, skin, healing properties are abundant. So we got to share a lot about that. And then just, you know, talking about all of the different brands, from the Tea Tree Special to the Tea Tree Lavender Mint, Tea Tree Lemon Sage, and the new Tea Tree Anti-Thinning Scalp Care. So we went through everything on Saturday night. It was a lot of fun. Awesome guests to stop by. So that was what was popping on the weekend. So hopefully you guys had a solid weekend. I'd love to know more about what you did. You know, we're having to get creative, right? Because everybody's been home. We've been home now. You know, our company's all closed down middle of March. I think 16th was our last day open. So we've all been now home for so many days, getting creative and figuring out what you're going to do on a Friday night, on a Saturday night, on the weekend. So we've been having these parties. You know, that was our second one. We're going to, like I said, planning for another one this Friday. We'll let you guys know more details about that. And Sunday, just kind of chilled out, you know, relaxed with the fam. You know, had some great food. You know, hung out with some great company. You know, social distancing approved. We've all been in the house, and you know, haven't really been out interacting with anyone. So we've all been self-quarantined, but that was a nice relaxing day. So hopefully you guys had some relaxation yesterday. And here we are back Monday morning, ready to go for story time. And so story time is where I've been reading to you guys from one of two books from the YFY book series, either your first year in the beauty industry, which was the first book that I wrote, really geared towards helping people that are just getting started with their career, just kind of launching, building beginning those foundational elements of their career. And then the second book in the YFY book series is your first year in salon ownership. And that's the one that we've been reading from in these last several episodes. And I can't believe we're already on episode, what is it, 16, 15? I mean, which is kind of crazy to think about. But we've been going hard every single, morning, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. We've been here tuning in live. We've got, our podcast going. We've got our Instagram lives going. We've got our Facebook pages going. We got our Zoom calls going. We got it all going. So we've been coming in every morning. So if you guys are waking up, if you're not on the East Coast where it's 9 a.m., it might be 7, it might be 8, it might be 6. So if you woke up nice and early, hopefully you got your coffee, hopefully you got your learning shoes on, your mental running shoes and learning shoes. As we're going to get into a new chapter today. And as I'm coming to you guys reading these chapters, it's kind of cool for myself, especially because I'm editing in real time. As I'm going through every one of these chapters, I'm able to kind of adapt it for the current environment that we live in, for the Corona economy. So a lot's changed. The world changed in the middle of March when businesses started shutting down. My world's changed. A lot of your worlds have changed. We didn't see exactly how this was going to play out. No one really knew exactly how it's gonna play out still, because it's still playing out. A lot of states have started their process of reopening. Our industry in particular is a tricky one, because our industry, it's required to be hands-on. I mean, it's like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way around it. So being in such a hands-on industry, it's going to be a little tricky. I know some of the states like Georgia, they had, the green light to reopen, but there were a lot of businesses that, were not 100% confident to reopen. They were kind of pulling back a little bit because they needed, and want, and which we all do, is just a clear kind of path for safety. Safety for our people, safety for our businesses, safety for, for our customers, our guests, that are coming in, especially in our industry, in the salon business. If you're a barber, if you're a stylist, if you're hands-on anything, a chiropractor, massage therapist, nail tech, and esthetician, whatever, if you're putting hands on people, it's going to be a little tricky, because at the end of the day, if that's what's required to do your job, then, when they talk about, it's kind of funny when they say, okay, you can open your business as long as you practice the social distancing guidelines. Well, the guidelines, beyond the small groups and how many people can be in a group, like one of the main guidelines is maintaining 6 feet, in distance from you and people around you. And so I think it's kind of funny, because it's like, yeah, well, why don't you just say, these businesses, like, these are the businesses that can, and these are the businesses that can. Because if you're going to say, well, you can open, but you have to follow these guidelines, right? I guess it's a recommendation to follow the guidelines at some point. You just can't really expect anybody in a hands-on, required touching industry to be able to say, okay, and feel confident about going in and opening up and not having an issue. I saw there were a bunch of other, there were gyms and stuff, some of the chains, I saw LA Fitness, they didn't open. So there's going to be a little bit of hesitation. So this week, a lot, states are reevaluating, states are, kind of putting out some of their guidelines, and that's what we're kind of looking for as consumers, just humans really, but as business owners, we're looking for, guidance from the health officials, from the government officials. So we do feel confident when we go in that we're trying to minimize and not put our people, not put our patrons, not put our families at risk. So that's going to be a big thing as we're watching, from our company's perspective. We're hoping, to open as soon as safely possible. So that's the big thing, safely possible. So those are things that, that are kind of going on, and we're all kind of tuned in. So hopefully if you guys are here for story time, I'm able to give you just some insights, kind of keep you up to speed on what we're up to. And then, we'll dig into our chapter for today and hopefully get some insights from there and get some insights on what I was up to. When I wrote these books, the first one I wrote after being in the industry, 10 years. And then looking back as a salon owner, I was probably about 3-4 years then into being a salon owner. When I decided, I was like, I'm going to write a book about your first year in and things that I needed to know when I was coming, into the industry and I was just getting out of school. And then I, talked myself out of it. I'm like, you ain't writing no damn book. You're a 1.7 GPA. You ain't got no business trying to write a book. So I kind of put it on the back burner, left it on the back burner for a while. And then, just kind of kept thinking about it. And it was like burning a hole in the back of my head. And finally I'm like, you know what? If I don't do it, who's going to do it? It was the same kind of thing when I started the salon. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? And sometimes you're waiting around for someone else to do something. And sometimes it's really us. It's up to us. We're the ones that got to take the step, take the leap and say, hey, you know what? If I don't do it, it may not get done. And so if you're thinking about that and you're like maybe thinking about starting a business or starting a new business, or you found yourself, in this Corona economy, not knowing, what's going to happen next. And you're looking and you're like wondering like, I mean, I think I want to do it. I think I should do it, but you're like hesitant. Ask yourself that question. If you don't do it, it may not get done. And if you don't do it, who's going to do it? And if you don't do it and you know that it may not get done, how important is it? So that was kind of for me when I was going into starting the Salon 1.0, I was thinking the same thing. Same thing when I was getting ready to start, writing these books. I was thinking the same thing. If I don't write it, who's going to write it? So that was the first book in the series. The book that we're reading from now, the second one, Why Salon Ownership, same scenario. If you don't do it, who's going to do it? Because I was getting a lot of questions, And, right now we have 4 different salons in 2 different states and 4 different cities. So I've been learning, how to work and manage and lead and grow and build, locations distant from each other and how that all plays out. And my goal, building salons is to be having salons throughout the United States and throughout the world, like become a global brand, become a global company. So that all is going to take time. It's going to take skill. It's going to take courage. It's going to take patience, but it's going to take learning. And as I was building, I was getting a lot of questions from new salon owners or people that were thinking about opening salons. So that's what really kind of motivated me to start this second series, the second book in the YFY book series, Your First Year in Salon Ownership. So that's the one we're going through now. We've hit up a few chapters already. Chapter 1, why is salon ownership for you? So it gets into your why, like why do you want to become an owner in the first place? Chapter 2, starting with the end in mind, critical. Chapter 3, systems. Chapter 4, the numbers. Chapter 5, hiring process. Chapter 6, career paths. Chapter 7, you only have 2 hands. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. We did that one last week. Chapter 8, financing and construction. Chapter 9, key relationships. Chapter 10, growth and expansion. And then chapter 11, the what if chapter. What if you do make it? Then what happens? Then what's next, right? You made it through. You got your salon open. Now what? Because as soon as you finish anything, just like, your first year in the beauty industry, once you make it through that first year, your first year on the job or your first year, you start thinking what's next, right? That's just a natural thing for most people to think, what's next? What am I going to start working on next? What am I looking forward to? We're always, looking forward to something, and then, like you have a holiday come in. So what's next? It's like, all right, we're in the Corona economy right now. Next is opening our business. Then what's next? So there's always going to be that next thing. So I go into that in the end, and then I share some, extra bonus material, thoughts that kind of started popping into my head as soon as I finished writing. I had a lot of thoughts. So that's kind of where we're at with salon ownership today. And the reason I had that little reminder song playing in the beginning is because today we're gonna kick it off with a little bit of numbers. So there's a whole chapter in here about numbers. There's a whole chapter in here about knowing your numbers, about what numbers to study. You know, if you come into the beauty industry and you come in, you know, as a hairstylist to be a hairstylist, which is how most people come in, you're not thinking about, you know, I got to know this, I got to know that. You're not thinking about, you know, being better at math. You're not thinking about all these different like financial terms. Like that's not what you're thinking about. You're coming into the beauty industry. You're probably thinking about a couple of things. You're probably thinking like, you know, I want to do something fun. I want to do something creative. I want to do something. I want to do something maybe a little bit different than you know, go sit in a classroom or go sit in a college for, you know, 4 years and then sit behind a desk. Maybe you're thinking, I want to do something like that. So that's kind of where, as you start, that's kind of where your head might be at. And then, hold on a second. Replying to a little message here. So then you have these thoughts, like you want to get into a creative industry. So you start looking at the beauty industry and you're thinking artistic, right? That's what you're thinking, right? You're thinking artistic. And then once you get in, once you're in, and if you're having some level of success, then you start to realize, wow, there's huge opportunities here. There's huge opportunities for me to grow and for me to make money and for me to maybe even one day become an owner. And then once you get to that point and you're thinking about becoming an owner, then you realize, oh shit, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I have to learn. There's a whole bunch of, you know, things that I need to figure out. There's a whole bunch of processes as a business owner that nobody ever told me about in school. Hold on a second. So as you're planning to go into the beauty industry, your first hat that you're wearing is the hat of art, right? You've got the artistic hat on. That's the hat you're wearing. And then as you go into the beauty industry and as you get going, then you start seeing these opportunities and you start thinking about the business, and then it becomes intimidating because there are a bunch of different things to learn about owning a business, and the numbers is a huge piece of that. And so when I was writing this chapter, I was really thinking, like, as I began, you know, and I was intimidated the same way because I didn't know a lot of these terms I'm going to talk about that I'm going to share with you. I didn't know what any of this stuff meant. I got my first business book and I was like, great, got my first business book. I'm about to become a legit business owner, a legit, the term was entrepreneur. I was like, so here I go. And then once I had that first business book, I'm like, oh, great. I have to go get a dictionary because, yeah, I got this first business book, but I don't understand really any of the terminologies. I don't understand like any of the lingo. I am not, you know, cut out for this. So that was my second, you know, thing was to start getting into like learning what the terms mean. So when I started writing this chapter, it was one of the main goals was to simplify the business lingo for people that are just getting started in business. And if you're not an owner yet, maybe you don't have a lease, maybe you're not running a payroll, maybe you're not, you know, haven't shut your business down right now. If you don't own a business yet, you can still start getting into the mentality of being a business owner. You can start getting into the mentality of thinking like a business owner. Because when you get to that point, you're ready. And truth be told, I mean, everybody, even if you are independent, you're by yourself, I mean, you're still managing yourself. You're still managing, you know, what you have going on. So you have that business, that little business, you know, is about what you're doing. And if you take it to the level of the mentality, then you start learning this stuff now, it's only going to sharpen everything you're doing to build your current situation up to another height. So thinking about that as you're getting going, mentality. So I'm going to be reading, that's chapter 4, which I'm coming to you guys today with. It's called The Numbers. And like all chapters, we start off with a quote. And this is why I was playing that song Reminder, because this is the quote. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Jay-Z. And that was Jay-Z who was playing earlier. So men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And that's one of the beauties of numbers. They're pretty absolute. You can ask people a question that is like a numerical answer is the response, right? But you ask them a question and they go into a story, right? You say, how many units did you sell? And then they say, well, here's the thing. And they start going into a story. And I'm like, I don't need a story. I need a number, right? I need a number. I don't need a story. Numbers tell the whole story. Numbers tell the whole story. So you don't necessarily need, this whole story, but people do that, right? You're like, how many haircuts did you do? How many clients did you see? How many business cards did you pass out? How many posts did you do on social media? And people go into the story. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. This is the chapter on numbers. So let's get started. Okay, it's time to get into the money talk. We've talked numbers before in my first book, YFYI for Stylists. I dedicated a whole chapter to numbers. So why dedicate another whole chapter to numbers? Well, simply because stylist numbers are different than salon business owner numbers. Some of the KPIs, key performance indicators, are the same, but the way you need to start looking at them is definitely different. As a stylist, you are really just focused on your one set of KPIs. But as the owner, you now have the privilege of focusing on everyone's KPIs, as well as the KPIs of the overall company. Well, wait, there's more. You also want to understand some key reports and terms so you can effectively communicate information, goals, and objectives about your company. It's time to become a business grown-up. How to learn the lingo fast. There are plenty of outlets out there to learn the language of business. I personally like listening to things like Bloomberg Radio, Fox Business, and CNBC, all of which have apps and you can tune into on your phone while you're on the go. And just thinking about that, I'm going to jump in here for a second. Business language, the lingo. And you guys that are on here on Instagram, I can flip this around for you real quick, and you can check this out. Let's go. Boom. So this is just silently playing over here. I'm looking, I'm listening, I'm reading. If I'm not, recording, I'll have this playing. I'll have the volume up. But those kinds of things, right? Being able to take a little lingo course. So listening, learning, that's a little, inside fast track tip to be able to learn business lingo quickly, because you'll hear terms, you'll hear thought leaders, you'll hear different business, CEOs and CFOs and all these people and how they're speaking about business. So that's a great way if you want to learn business lingo. Tune into some of the business shows. And that's something that I've been doing, for years. And it's really kind of brought me up to speed on like what business is about. Some things even like thinking scale wise, when you hear some of the numbers that they talk about so casually, it makes you a little less intimidated when numbers start getting bigger and conversations and negotiations are happening. And you realize, okay, yeah, this is just got a lot of moving parts. This is a game of business. This is how we talk about it. It's not weird, but you have to get the lingo down. So those are just a couple of tips. Let's get back to the story. The nice part about listening to these is you start to understand what some of the big fancy business terms mean and why they're important. You'll also hear money being talked about at major levels, which will expand your thinking about what's possible. Lastly, There's always new things happening in the market that could affect your day-to-day business. Wouldn't you like to know first, right? That's a big thing, especially right now with the corona economy. Depending on what type of business you're in, you might have, if you're clueless, right, and you don't know what's going on, you're not paying attention, you may not know, like, does this affect my business? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Even things like the price of oil, right? You might think like, that doesn't really affect me. But then when you start learning about why are they always talking about oil, you start thinking like, you're watching, you start to get insight is, yeah, it does. You're a barber, you're a stylist, yeah, it does. No matter what business you're in, that's why they're making such a big deal of it. So you start to learn about these things when you start tuning in. So knowing about what's going on and how it could affect your day-to-day. Back to the story. When I first started my business, I was completely clueless about these outlets, which in my case might have been beneficial because the month I decided to start was also the month we had the biggest financial meltdown since maybe the Great Depression. So not knowing anything was like having blinders on. I did think it was weird, though, how when I would go to a networking event or hand out a business card and proudly announce I was a new business owner, people's first response would be, "Oh, really? How's that going?" As they stared at me with a scared look on their face. I would reply, "Great." And we both walk away confused. If you want an excellent recap of the last, but definitely not last, financial crisis, go watch the movie Big Short. All right, so the fun stuff. Here's the key financial terms you as a business owner want to know. So it's interesting to think of like when I wrote this, and this is now probably a couple years ago, I was talking about that, opening up in the middle of a economic meltdown or downturn. And it's kind of like right now, right now we're going through this like economic downturn. Everything, there's so much uncertainty, so much value's been lost, so many companies may or may not even ever be able to open again. But I've been talking about how there's going to be some new businesses that emerge out of this business. And I'm not talking about the ones that are, like just jumping on the bandwagon of Corona. I'm talking about the ones that are actually make sense, that provide value, but they were started during these downtimes. And here's the deal, guys. If you're able to start something and have some success with it during a downtime when it's the hardest, to be able to create revenue, sales, numbers, then when times are going good, it's easy. It's kind of like the current, right? If you're in a boat, if you're in a kayak, if you're in a canoe, whatever you're in, if you're going, and the current's going against you and you're going upstream and current's pushing down and you can make it, that's the hard part. And then when you turn around and you're going with the current, right, and the current is in your favor, that's easy. And then you're like, oh, this is smooth sailing. That's where the term comes from, smooth sailing, right? You're not fighting. So now is the time, if you're trying to test out a product or a service or an idea, now is the time you really find out what you're made of. If you get a big middle finger from, the industry or whatever, the consumer's like, no, and they don't want it, well, then guess what? You'll find out. Maybe, you're you got to be able to, can you stomach the rejection? B, maybe there's no need for your product or service. Or C, you'll find out maybe that it's just not a good idea. I mean, there's things that you test, though. It's a game, right? You test, it's business. You test it, you try it. Most things won't work. Some things will. That's just the way it goes. You don't win every game, right? You got to try things. So that's where the downturn was happening when I started. And so now another downturn. Now I'm reading this today and it's like talking about it was the last financial crisis, but definitely not the all caps last. So here we are, ironically, as I'm reading this right in the middle of the new one, the now one. So let's get back to the story. So here's the terms. Number one, P&L statement, right? If you're taking notes, otherwise known as a profit and loss statement. This statement gives you a breakdown of all your revenue, the top line of what your business brought in, all the way down to the bottom line, what was left after expenses, either a profit or a loss. Now, yes, it's better to have a profit than a loss, but that's not always the case in the beginning. Your job is to constantly be growing the top line while simultaneously controlling the stuff in the middle so you can maximize the bottom line. As I stated though, in the beginning, you may run a deficit or loss while you're building, which is perfectly normal. But you want to get out of the red, which is the negative, and into the black, which is the positive, as quickly as possible. Running a deficit for an extended period of time is not a winning formula, unless you have an extremely rich uncle with deep pockets that can keep you afloat, or you are the US government and can print money, which somehow enables us to run over $1 trillion deficit. For how long, no one knows for sure, but inevitably not forever. As a for-profit business, your job is to turn a profit. Your P&L is where your overall performance is consolidated. Now, there's a lot of ways to get these reports, right? You could use products, QuickBooks. I use Xero. Even on a computer, most software, even Microsoft Word, they have templates, right? It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't have to be anything you have to buy or pay for, probably. You could keep it on your notepad. You want to get real, kind of old school with it, just write it down, right? Write it down. You got to track the stuff. You got to track it. You got to be paying attention to it because it's going to be like the indicators. It's going to be like your business. It's going to be like what your business is up to, what it's about. So you're going to need to be tracking this and paying attention to it. Second fancy term, number 2, balance sheet. This is where you can, in real time, see what your company's assets and liabilities are. Basically, see what your net worth is at any given time. This sheet adds up all of your assets like cash in the bank, value of your furniture, equipment, supplies, aka fixed assets, and then subtracts all of your liabilities, basically what you owe, which leaves you with your net worth or equity in your company. The key thing to remember is that your balance sheet changes daily as you increase assets or decrease liabilities. So it's a great real-time snapshot of what's happening with your company or any other. Now, if there's publicly traded companies out there, they provide this information. They have to for their shareholders. What I'd recommend is go look at it. Go study it. You can get access to some of the biggest companies in the world. There's thousands of different companies that are publicly traded. And so they have to make all this information public. That's what publicly traded means. So you could go read Amazon, Walmart, Apple, Nike, whoever, Chipotle, you name it, whatever your stores are, whatever places, Southwest Airlines. I'm just thinking of different companies that I have stock in. I can go read all of their balance sheets, see how much money they have on their books, how much value in like equipment they have on their books, what their debt is, how much debt they're carrying, are they over leveraged? These are things that huge investors like Warren Buffett that will come in and buy a company up. These are things that he does for fun. He just reads these all day. So you're going to have one for your business. Even another step forward, you're going to have a balance sheet for your family, right? You have a balance sheet for your life. So you have, what I own, my assets, cash, stuff, how much all that is, what I owe, right? Liabilities, right? So assets minus liabilities equal my net worth, right? Where I'm at, right? So that's a way you're going to be able to figure out what my equity is. So you're going to need to figure out how do you balance equities and liabilities? How do you keep those things in balance? How do you keep in balance asset, liability? Asset minus liability equals equity. So how do you keep those things in balance? Those are things that you're going to need. You're going to need to have that. You'll have one for your business. You'll have one for your life. You can read other people's balance sheets for their company as well. So those are some of the two of the key terms. So number 3 is what I call ratios to revenue, which I don't even know if it's a real term or I just made it up, but I think it's important. So I wanted to share it with you. Basically, it's a breakdown of where the money goes. If you've ever listened to the YFYI podcast, hashtag TME, the money episodes, you may have heard me talk about this before. At the end of the day, you want to learn, you have to learn how to allocate money, and the sum of all the money you bring in, which I call the 100% of revenue, is all you have to work with. Traditionally, the percentages are broken down largest to smallest of where the money goes. I've added a little twist to the breakdown. Here it is. I put profit first. Without it, there's no point of starting a for-profit business, followed by the rest of the percentages. For most businesses, profit, if any, is last. And most businesses never make any profit. I wonder why that is. Maybe because it's the last thing on their mind. Remember this, where your focus goes, the money flows. We'll call that a Sonnyism. It's 100% true. So here's the breakdown. So we're going to get into this breakdown here. So I want you to be thinking about this. Airbnb, some of these huge, tech companies, we hear about them in the news. They're worth billions and billions and billions. They don't make any profit, right? They don't make any profit. They take everybody's money. They are growing the company, but they're not profitable. Some of them, I don't think Amazon was profitable for like 15, 20 years. Now, so it's like, okay, why and how can a company survive and never make any profit? A lot of them can't. We see a lot of them go away. So that's going to be the case for most businesses, right? We talked about that before. 97%, fail, right? Because profitability, if you're a for-profit, now if you're a nonprofit, great. Then that doesn't need to be you're on your top line. But you need to know, like, having a profit as a profitable company is what's going to help lock you into a long-term situation. Right? Being able to have a profit, even if it's just for you. If you're just a single owner and you just make a little profit for you, like, that is a big part of the point. Now, they may not be the only reason you went into business, but it needs to be one of the main reasons, because it's a profitable business. It means it's a real legit business, means it's going to be around for a little bit. If you're never making a profit, you're talking about what is the point? Right? What is the point to take other people's money and do what with it? Right? Being profitable is going to be big. So a lot of companies don't make it to profitability. Now, you might not make it in the very beginning, but at some point you got to have a plan to get to profitability. And a lot of the investors out there, they talk about that with these companies. They're like, okay, what's your plan to get to profitability? What's your plan to get out of the red? Yeah, I'm going to give you all my money, but if we're not going to get any return on that money, AKA make some profits, then what are we doing here, right? So I want you to think about that. Being profitable is okay. It's a great thing. I don't know why, some places don't think it is. It's a really good thing to be a profitable company. So here's the breakdown. So, and I've got this. I'll show this to you guys real quick. So that's a little bit of the breakdown there. Maybe backwards for you guys on whatchamacallit, on Instagram, but I'm going to read through it. So profit, so percentage, right? You have to think about how you set these numbers up. You have 100% at the end of the day, revenue coming in. These are the percentage breakdowns. So I have profit, top, profit 15%, payroll 35%, rent 10%, utilities 8%, supplies 7%, equipment 5%, training 5%, advertising 3%, accounting 3%, insurance 3%, legal 3%. I have another insurance in there, 3%. So there may be two different types of insurance, but I got 2 3s. So now if we add all these up, right, we should add all those up. It should come out to 100%. That's all you got. You don't got more than that. So then what you need to figure out is, so take, for example, you make $100,000 come through the door, right? Revenue wise. Make and take are two different things. So your business, we'll say your business generates 100K, 100,000. So if you're saying 15%, you're talking 15,000, you're saying is going to be profit. So that profit is what you want to make before any other of these expenses are handled. Then payroll. So payroll could be you, if you're just paying yourself. You got staff, could be you're paying your staff. Then you have your rent, right? What does it cost you to, rent your space, your lease, your mortgage, however your structure is. Your utilities, right? Lights, electric, you got all that kind of going on. You got your phones, if you got water, if you got other utilities that are going on, you have to pay. Supplies, what do you need to produce the product or the service? And then you got that, you got equipment costs, right? If you're in a salon, you're talking, there's a lot of different equipment, from chairs to sinks, blow dryers, there's all kinds of equipment that we use. Training, right? So somebody's got to, provide it. Maybe it's you, but do you account for that as a cost? Do you pay yourself to train your team, or you hire people to come in and train your team? So you have training costs, advertising costs, right? There's going to be some form of advertising, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Maybe you got billboards, you got advertising costs, accounting, keeping your books, right? Keeping your numbers together. And then you've got your insurance, your legal, your insurance. You have to have insurance, liability insurance. Maybe you have vehicles for the company. There might be insurance there. Also, a vehicle might be equipment for the company. So those are costs. So once you look at all of these, that's going to be 100%. Now, back to the story. It doesn't always work out like this, but those are the general targets for allocation of revenue that we are shooting for in our companies. These numbers, in addition to all the KPIs we discussed in FYI for stylists, will give you the tools you need to successfully navigate the financial landscape of operating your business. Keep score, you do more. So I want you to kind of remember those three terms and that breakdown. Those would be some key takeaways. So that P&L statement, make sure, get a look at that thing. Know where it's at, know how to pull it up, know how to read it. Because that's going to give you a map of where did that money go. Maybe after you look at that, then you realize that, man, my my payroll expense was like 50 or 60. My rent was 30 or 40. You can look at those and then compare them back to those ratios and those percentages that I just shared with you. And then you can come back and say, okay, what can I do to either bring some of these down, increase some of these other ones, so I can become a profitable company. Number two, the balance sheet, understanding where the money's going. So understanding what you have on your books, your equipment, your assets, your all your cash accounts, and then what your liabilities are, what you owe, what's coming due, what you owe. Some things are long-term, right? Like a lease, say you're paying, I'll give you an example on a lease, right? So say you got a 1,000 square foot space. So that 1,000 square foot space, we'll just say, to keep the numbers easy, you're paying, $1,200 a month. So that 1,000 square foot space, times the $1,200 that you're paying a month, you're going to have that $1,200 over the course of, a year. We'll just say for 1 year, the rent on that is going to be $14,400. Typical lease, probably going to be about 5 years, times 5 years, that's 72 grand. You're going to have some tax. You're going to have some insurance costs built in there. You're going to have probably, if that 1,200 includes any other maintenance or upkeep of the space, so we'll just say if that's all in, then you're going to be at 72,000 over that 5-year period. So when you look at your balance sheet, if you sign that 5-year lease, every time you look at your balance sheet, that number is going to be adjusted, because that's going to be called an outstanding, meaning you're going to be paying that, right? But over time, it's going to be adjusted. It's going to come down every month, every year, every 3 months. So that's where your balance sheet's going to change on a regular basis. It's going to change. It's going to constantly flow. It's going to move up. It's going to move down. So then you'll look at your equipment, same thing. Now your equipment, the way your equipment's going to work is kind of a little different, because you buy your equipment in the beginning, right? Maybe you have a lease on it, so you may be paying that down, or you buy it flat out. You know, a lot of my equipment, that's what I did. So you buy it, say you bought a chair for $500, right? Now the second you buy it, it starts to depreciate. So you're able to take some, and I'm not going to get into the whole, the whole schedule of how that works, but you're able to take depreciation. There's cost, right? You'll be able to take off, and you'll be able to have some, there'll be tax liabilities. You'll be able to have some breaks on over time. But just know that on your balance sheet, that's going to be on there as an asset. But that asset is going to also depreciate over time. And so that's why that balance sheet is going to be constantly in flux. So you got to study that, and you got to know, you got to run the numbers. Casinos are great at this. They're running reports hourly. They're checking their profit and loss statement hourly, because somebody sits down and they just got an unlimited bankroll and they start playing heavy. They could wipe out, a table. So that casino needs to know, hey, I got to change out that dealer, get a new dealer in there. Maybe they just need to switch it up. They're not fresh, or whatever the case is, but they're running those profit and loss statements like hourly. So balance sheet, your profit and loss statement, and your ratios to revenue of where you're allocating percentage wise. Now, you're never going to have, like I said, it's not going to be a perfect system when you first set it up, but your goal is to start working those different areas, and keep a number in mind, a target. Once you start with your target, your profit target percentage, if you're going for 10% or 15%, and 15 is, it's pretty good. That's not, profit to profit 15% on your revenue. That's not too bad. A lot of companies are less than 5, like I said, most are 0. Right? Most are not making any profit. So if you're getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 is an ambitious number to go for 15%. But then once you have that target, then you can start to work in your other numbers. Now, when you add up all your other numbers and you're over 100%, which most of you will be, then from there you can start figuring out, okay, how do I cut some of these? Look at your supply costs. Waste is always going to be, there's always going to be some kind of waste. You can start, editing, right? You have to start editing. Shop around for your utilities. You don't have to, some places you're stuck with a company because they got it's like a racket. But a lot of times you can shop around for your utilities. Evaluate it every year. Look at your banking scenario. Look at your accounting situation. A lot of business owners get trapped. They get into one thing and they're just stuck in there forever, right? Look at your cost on your payroll. Look at the cost to process it. Look at all of your expenses, from your credit card processing, your banking, your fees, your insurance companies. I shop around. I shop around every year. I'm shopping around. I'm not stuck with any company. And if they're trying to get you stuck, that's probably a little ding, ding, ding. Maybe you need to start shopping before you even start with them, because that might be an indicator that, yeah, they're trying to get you locked in. But you can shop around. There's other businesses, they figured out how to do something better, more efficient, and maybe then you find a way to save 1-2%. It's not going to be huge percentage points. So when I'm shopping around, I'm maybe trying to save a little bit here or there. I had 3-4 different companies that I worked with my phone and internet services when I first started out. In my first 4 or 5 years, I was moving around. Even recently, I moved around again. We went into all mobile, right? Why go all mobile? Well, hell, there's a lot of reasons, but right now during the Corona economy, guess what? Going all mobile was actually, it was it was a scenario that really set us up, because when we had to close all the businesses down, it was boom, we're all mobile. We can do our our reservations pretty much the drop of a hat. We can set up and take down a salon at the drop of a hat. So being able to go all mobile for us was one of those things that it saved money and it made us nimble. So start looking around, figuring out like where could you potentially take some percentages off, grow some percentages in other areas, and know that you're not locked in. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that chapter, the numbers. Sometimes that information, it's kind of like, people start talking about numbers and math and P&Ls and balance sheets and these percentages and ratios. You can kind of glaze over. You're like, I'm an artist. I don't know all this. But you got to know all this. That's not an excuse for you not to know what's going on with your business. So hopefully you'll take some time, commit to learning more about this information. Tune into some of those programs I was telling you about so you can start learning the lingo and read some balance sheets of publicly traded companies to know what they look like. And you'll learn a lot, guys. You'll learn a lot. So that was the chapter on numbers from your first year in salon ownership. I'm excited to get back with you guys tomorrow morning. So we'll be back at 9 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. You can listen to all the episodes if you're on the go, you're going for a walk or a run, yfyipodcast.com. And for all the books, you can just go to yourfirstyearin.com. But yeah, if you're on the go, check it out because I'm recording all these as a podcast as well as videos. The replays will be up on my pages. And then the podcast will be, they get posted immediately. So once I wrap up, I'll start editing and put together the podcast, and that'll be out, within an hour. So that's all at yfypodcast.com. Books are at yourfirstyearin.com. So thank you guys again for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Instagram, Facebook, pages, YFY, Sunny D, wherever you're at. Thanks for being here, guys. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning. We'll be back bright and early. Ready for another one. Tomorrow's going to be, I can't believe tomorrow's going to be number 17. It's wild. Storytime 17 coming tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's Tuesday morning. So wake up early, bring a friend, let them know that you're going to a live story time with Sunny D and that they need to be there. Invite them over. Share the stream. Keep your comments coming. Keep your feedback coming. And that's what we got for today. So good start to the beginning of the week. Excited to be back for story time and excited to talk to you guys again tomorrow morning. All right, guys. Have a good one.